So there are a couple different types of lights we haven't covered yet. If I go back to the actor classes browser, um, you may have noticed something called a skylight. This kind of isn't really used anymore. It was more important in earlier versions of Unreal that didn't have radiosity rendering. But essentially what it does is it creates an ambient light that passes through everything. So you probably don't need it. It can be a little bit useful in early phases when you're just prototyping your level. And it can be good if you've got some really dark areas that don't have any light getting to them. It can be a good way to fill those in, but it does tend to wash everything out, so I personally avoid it. You've probably also noticed if you hit the little plus icon, there's different subclasses of these lights, like a point light movable or toggleable. If you're doing environment lighting, like we've been doing so far, you shouldn't need to worry about those. These are for if you're doing more scripted events later, like if you've got an elevator that moves up and down that has a light on it, that would be a point light movable, or a light that you can turn on and off would be toggleable. But those tend to be more expensive, so don't use them for environment lighting. One other cool feature of Unreal is that it can use a mesh as the light source. Think of a neon sign would be the perfect example, where the tube itself is what's emitting the light, not any given point floating in front of it. So let's head back inside. I'm going to go to the content browser, filter by static meshes, and then I'm going to search for the keyword light. Now a lot of these light sources have what's called an emissive property. For instance, this one right here, if I open it up, I can rotate around in the viewport. Like the underside isn't lit up, but no matter how I orient it, this part here is glowing. That's because the material was set up with an emissive texture. So we could place this in the world, and any place that's emissive will actually glow and emit light in the scene that will then bounce around. So let's grab this one, this Turk lamp. I'm going to hold S and click to place it in the world. Rotate it around. All right, so by default it won't emit light. That's a setting that we have to turn on, so I'm going to go into the properties. Now this lives under, like I was saying with the lights, every mesh type tends to have its own rollout. So this is a static mesh actor, static mesh component. There's a category called light mass settings. To turn it on, we need to hit this setting, use emissive for static lighting. And then we can use this option here, emissive boost, to control how brightly this object glows. But let's leave it at the default value of 1 for now. Of course, that's where it lives. You could always use the search tool once you know the keyword emissive, and that'll give you your emissive boost and that flag that we just turned on. So if I bake now, there we go. This light source mesh has now become a real light source in the scene.